Welcome to your Daily Dose. My name is Robert. I'm here with my friend Christine. We are on polar opposite ends of the world from the time and date. In fact, you are the next day. That
Absolutely.
still throws me. How do you deal, by the way, with being, opposite ends? I imagine you do a fair amount of international stuff, having lived in South America. How do you manage clocks that are so different like that?
Oh, honestly, I try not to. Like I was so involved in the community, and I love being in every meeting. When I was in South America, and I didn't realize how hard it would be when I came to Australia to
Mm.
do it. And it's almost impossible because if you've got to work the next day, getting up at 3 a.m. for a call is just not on. You can't do it, especially with Parkinson's. My sleep is pretty precious as it is, and I tend to sometimes do the wrong thing anyway and stay up late, and I can't get to sleep. So yeah, no, I definitely try to keep my routines like sort of normal, but yeah.
It almost sounds like you're human, doing things the wrong way sometimes. Yeah, we know that one. And you're in Sydney, is that correct?
That's right. That's right. I live
Oh,
in Sydney.
very good. Well, for those who don't know you, and I had the wonderful opportunity to meet you in Barcelona, give us a background on your Parkinson's history and your advocacy. Just feel free to start jumping in, and I will ask questions along the way. But you've been at this for a while, so.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed in 2014. So
Mhm.
that's now 12 years ago. And well, it was like the normal sort of diagnosis, shocking. Well, I was only 37. And so I didn't know really what to do. They said do a bit of exercise, but I didn't really know what they meant. So I just did a bit of exercise occasionally. But it wasn't really working. So 4 years in, I was going down, down, downhill. I was losing ability, like I was stumbling and falling over and fell to my face because my reactions weren't quick enough to catch me. And so that sort of was a wake up call, and I had to do something about it. So I took up gymnastics, and that changed my life. So I took up like learning how to do handstands. I mean, it took a while to get the handstand, but that led me to the World Parkinson's Congress because they asked people if they wanted to share their stories, and I sent a video about my story of learning how to do a handstand, and then I made a follow-up video thereafter that was called the before and after, which shows us the amazing benefits of exercise that I had done over the first 2 years of that exercise period. I did amazing things, and I got back everything I'd lost and more, and learned how to walk sort of normally again. I mean, when I'm medicated, you can't tell I have Parkinson's most of the time.
So there's a bunch to unpack there, but I want to hit a couple of things. Number one, that the people are very familiar, like you say, with the initial diagnosis and the fear and the shock, especially early onset, 37 years old.
Yeah.
Secondarily, exercise, right? It's a broad spectrum thing. What do you mean exercise? Well, you took
Yeah.
gymnastics. Why gymnastics? And talk about that road.
Well, I guess it starts back before gymnastics. I was just going to the gym, and they said just join the aerobics class or the dance class, and I'm like, I'm not Latino. I don't have the rhythm. I cannot even keep up with one song, let alone all the songs because they were so quick. I was just intimidated, but I just wasn't really getting anywhere with the regular sort of format of just going for walks or runs or stretching and doing classes online. I just wasn't getting anywhere. So gymnastics, because my kids were doing gymnastics and they loved it, and it looked amazing and fun. And I thought I used to know how to do a handstand when I was a kid. I could do that. No, I could not do that. And I saw the teacher had an adults class. Mind you, they were gymnasts, either level 10 or very high level, or they were pole dancers. And they were doing, yeah, they were doing classes of gymnastics with the teacher to help their flexibility and such. And so I said, can I join the adult class? And he said, yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to go now. And I was frightened. And I got to the class. I said, I'm frightened. And he said, he just laughed, and he was very gentle with me at first, which is great. And gradually, I got more and more involved, and learnt to push myself as well. Because he was like, if you don't push yourself on this, you'll never move forward. You have to push through the pain. And I'd never really done a lot of sports growing up. I was active and involved, but not really that sporty. But yeah, so I learned how to push myself a bit further, and that's how I achieved some amazing things.
Well, that's the you said a couple things there that definitely hooked with me. The idea of having to push beyond, what you're comfortable with, and
Mm-hmm.
also even going back further, you also mentioned it looked like fun. Those are
Yeah.
such key components, right? Everyone's like, what's the right exercise? Which will make the difference? And it's like if we don't start with the what you're attracted to and what are you truly interested in, it won't matter the modality, right? The exercises matter. And then secondarily, what a great thing you did. You said, I'm scared. That's incredibly vulnerable. And you had a great mentor, it sounds like, who, gave you the calm confidence with a little laughter to say, you'll be fine. And also gently said, you're going to have to work hard.
For sure.
There's no way around it, right?
Yeah. And I have to say, I do have a love-hate relationship with gymnastics because it's hard work. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that I'm a natural at it. It really is hard work. And I'm still frightened of doing a handstand some days. It just depends on my mood. And I just stand there trying to do it and I can't do it some days. And so I think it's natural to have fear. And I just have to be open about that as well because people think you're amazing. And I'm like, actually, I'm pretty normal. I have some fears and phobias and I'm not as always as amazing as I look, but that's the point, isn't it, that we're supposed to just try and do things even if we don't want to.
I think that's incredibly important what you bring up because so often, especially if people are only seeing the highlight clip version of your life, right? They assume, well, that's just what you do. You're a natural athlete, a natural gymnast, this, that, and the other. And this is sort of a microcosm for Parkinson's because we know in the community how many times people only show up when everything's perfect. They could be suffering 95% of the time and show up 5%, and people go, looks like you're handling this just fine. It's like, yeah, you didn't see all these other things. And difficult and painful and scary as it is to get those things forward, we need those things to be forward so we can get more attention and more funding and everything else for Parkinson's.
Absolutely. You got to be honest about where you're at. And I don't have my good days sometimes too.
Yeah, wonderful. So it didn't stop there, though. You got your personal life going, and then it led you toward advocacy, and in particular, this really fascinating grant with the Michael J. Fox Foundation, which what really took me aback about that was I've certainly known of them since my dad's diagnosis in 2001, have worked tangentially with them. But especially in the years I worked with them in the 2000s, they were very much, laser focused on the cure, the cure, the cure, and that's it and the other. Your study and the work you were doing seemed a little more community based and maybe a lot more community based. Talk to me about that and maybe some shifts you've seen in the Michael J. Fox Foundation about how they approach things.
Yeah, so I got involved in the project because I was extremely involved in my community. I was living in Peru when I was diagnosed, and I
And
started,
what was the name of the project? Sorry.
that's really hard to. Don't really know the long name.
It has a big name, doesn't it? Yeah.
It has
Okay.
a big
Sorry.
name.
Go ahead. You will
It's
get
the
to it.
pinnacle. It's on the pinnacle in the website
Okay.
of Michael J. Fox, and it's oh gosh, now you put me on the spot.
No, I'm sorry. I apologize. Go ahead. Just talk about it. You were saying you were diagnosed while you were in Peru. Please continue.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed in Peru, and so I was involved in the Latin American community there. Firstly, locally, I started a local support group, and then I started involved in myself in other groups in Lima, and then I started to meet people from around the country, and we realized that some people in Latin America have access to resources, information about Parkinson's, and some don't. And so we just realized that maybe we could share some information, a network, and just by creating a network, we were able to share information, and that's how I met a Cuban doctor. And he said he was on a project already that he was putting an application in for Michael J. Fox. This is the project. And it was an epidemiology project. So there's the in. They love to measure that's the name of it. Yeah.
I found it eventually. Please.
Thank you. It was just a very long name, so I couldn't
Yeah.
remember it off the top of my head. They're starting to come to the idea that we need to know what is happening from the people's perspective. What's the lived experience? Michael J. Fox himself gives input into what it's like to live with Parkinson's, and so they started to have more of an interest in that. And so, as part of this grant, they just tapped on a little thing where we're going to consult the group that I was organizing there with others in Latin America, and we'll get them to do some surveys or something like that. And I was actually doing a master's in public health at the time, and I thought I'd love to do a real proper study to get an idea of what it's like. And so we started to look into that, and I did that through my university in the end. And in the end, we didn't really do surveys because the problem with surveys is very hard to get them published if you don't have a high power number, a lot of people, and it's very hard to find people with Parkinson's in Latin America because there's a lot of stigma and shame.
Mm.
And so unless you go to a clinic and, wait for people to come in, that's the only way to find big numbers of people. But even because of the stigma, they might not want to be involved. So I worked for online through the networks I have in Latin America, and we got 25 people, and we did a qualitative research, which is slightly different, but it's still extremely powerful because it gives you an idea of what it's like to live with Parkinson's. And actually, the people there themselves, they said to me, wow, it's very similar across the board.
Mm.
Like there were some countries that were a little more advanced, that had more access to medication. But even in those countries, there were either poor treatment, not accessing in the rural areas, the same sort of issues across the board. So
Yeah,
yeah, it just
that's
depended.
wonderful. Did you have much of a relationship with either the lead investigator or Michael J. Fox Foundation itself? Because, like I said, this is a turn in terms of their focus. And you mentioned Michael, of course, being present himself, incredibly generous. But foundationally, to put money and effort and really, I think, publish the study, which is well worth a read. To me, it seemed to show a slight shift in their focus. Not that they're not cure based, but that they're realizing we need to take care of today too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I really would love to go and chat with them and the Michael J. Fox Foundation more about the project, because we really need to get a follow up as well. Because I mean, the whole point of research is to identify further research. And we just identified so much stigma, so much gaps in resources there, and so many people who just didn't have health professionals who knew much about Parkinson's. A lot of people struggled to get a diagnosis, and a lot of people just really didn't have any information, and the ones we talked to, they had more information because they were able to access the international community online. But they were the well-off people, to be honest. On the whole, they were more educated, and so they could access a bit more. So there's a lot of people who are just hiding at home with Parkinson's, and they don't know they have it.
So, yeah, you talked about social economic status, you talked about education, all these things that demographically, yeah, we measure for, but if you don't get them to begin with, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah, and that's actually what the one of their studies had actually identified, that the people they surveyed with Parkinson's, the epidemiology survey had identified that a lot of them never had any diagnosis before they were diagnosed in that project, because they went door to door and looked for people, and there was like a huge amount of people, and I'm not talking a third, it was like 2/3 or something, that were
Wow.
not diagnosed
And was
before.
so.
Yeah.
I'm like you said. My mind's spinning with all of this. What was one of the potential outcomes of this? A possible environmental look at why the prevalence was high where you were, because we've certainly done that in California, and we've identified some areas of toxic exposure. Was that one of the ideas that came out of this, or was it more along still just the research of the surface of the people that have it?
That certainly is definitely needed, but it
Mm.
wasn't a conclusion of the study.
Sure.
But that's just because it wasn't really brought up by the people themselves.
Right.
A few of them, but very few. And so, yeah, but in the future, it's definitely needed, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of chemicals used in Latin America in agriculture, and without any control, or limited control, I might say. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I'm going through a toxic exposure case with my dad right now. He was diagnosed in 2001. He served in the Vietnam War here from the States, and Agent Orange is identified as a chemical at that time that automatically, if you were exposed to it, the Army recognizes and gives you full benefit. Well, interestingly for him, he served during the war, but even though he should have been a frontline commander, thankfully he wasn't. He never actually put boots on the ground in Vietnam. But what we had to do through research is look back and go, look at the forts he was serving at, and the toxic exposure in those forts. And this is going back and looking at history and whatever, but it's felt a little bit like, have you ever heard of the film Aaron Brockovich here from the
Yeah.
States? Right?
Yeah.
That type
Absolutely.
of research she had to do, right? To go into the groundwater, to start talking, like you mentioned, knocking on doors. That's what it's felt like for this too.
It's amazing, that film. And I actually said my daughter was watching a clip from it. I said, we need to watch that film together, because they're
Great.
interested in things now. They're older, and they can take on. And I'm like, this is like the activist that I would love you to see. They don't know who she is. I didn't say the word activist, but I'm like, she's pretty ballsy. Yeah.
Strong, right? Yeah, and doing good. Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to turn toward the World Parkinson's Congress because you'll be there again. Is this your second Congress as an ambassador? Is that right? Third.
No, no, it's my third Congress, but I'm not an ambassador this time.
Okay.
I'm just an alumni ambassador, they call us. They say
Okay.
once you're an ambassador, you're sort of always an alumni ambassador. And we just can't help ourselves because we love the Congress so much, and it helped us in our sort of, well, at least for me, in my journey, it really helped me progress as an advocate. Like I would never have become an advocate, I imagine, if I hadn't been to the Congress, because I just saw such amazing things happening there and was so inspired, and met people who also said to me, you can improve your health, you can improve your exercise, you can move better. And I was like, wow, that is awesome.
Let's walk through your journey then, because I think it's great. Because I've been to one, and I'm so excited about the second. So your exposure to it was what, 2019 in Kyoto?
2019. That's right. The first one I went to, I made a video called Handstand for Parkinson's, and it was shortlisted. So that was like part of the thing that they said, put in the video, but if you want to put in video, we encourage you to come.
Right.
And so, okay, I'll go all the way from Peru to Japan. I stopped in Australia on the way, left my family, and then flew off to Japan on my own. I didn't know hardly anyone at the conference. I think I knew one person, and I had to make connections and made some friends and met some wonderful people. But everyone really loved my video at the Congress. It didn't win, but it was very well received and very shocking at the time, especially about that I was doing gymnastics. And
Yeah.
so then I went back to the second Congress, was in Barcelona, and that's when I became an ambassador, because they could see that there was not really much work going on in Latin America. But there was a little bit through Claudia Martinez, but then I started moving and starting connecting on the ground, and met a lot of people and connected them with the international community.
Yeah.
And some of them had their own way of connecting as well. But yeah, it was a wonderful way to meet people.
So what did it mean to become an ambassador? What did you do? How did that change your status?
So being an ambassador was really wonderful because Eli Pollard actually sort of mentored us. Every month or two, she would meet us, and just we'd see where we were at with like talking to people in the community, trying to encourage them to come to the Congress. Obviously, that wasn't easy for everybody because it's quite a financial commitment.
Yeah.
But yeah, we basically just got out there, and I just listened to the stories that everyone was telling about what they were doing to help their community. They were having fundraisers and or just doing all sorts of things that I had never, we just were able to encourage each other to do things to help our community. And so, yeah, it was a wonderful experience. And it meant that we also sort of helped with little things in the Congress. I gave a short talk at the last Congress. But the other thing about the last Congress was that my video won the Popular Choice Award. So that was really cool. I mean, I didn't get to do the speech because I put it in the name of the protagonist, who was a guy from Peru. It was his story called Ray of Hope. And so that won the Popular Choice Award. So that was pretty cool.
That is cool. Like you say, for those who haven't been, and if you're watching this right now, strong encouragement is to go. I don't know if you've heard, but I mean, they're actually sold out of several levels of their tickets already.
I was
Um,
shocked. That's
yeah.
amazing.
So, you know Carl and Angela Robb? They're in Virginia, the United States.
Yeah, yeah.
Wonderful people. Carl told me the other day that he's heard they're already up to like 6,000 attendees, and I think
Oh,
Barcelona was around 3,000. And
yeah, that's awesome. That's great.
so that this many people are excited. I think the venue is great. Have you ever been to Phoenix in the
I
States
have.
here? Okay.
Yeah, it's hot. It's hot.
It will be hot. That time of year, we have a chance to catch a little bit of a break. It may not be, the ultra hot that it gets, because I lived in Las Vegas, which is a similar culture in terms of the geography. Usually June is when it really becomes rough, from June through September. So hopefully it won't be too bad there. But yeah, great facility. And what are you looking forward to at this year's World Parkinson's Congress?
Well, I guess this time I'm actually more relaxed than the previous times. First time I didn't know anyone. I was, a bit nervous. It was a bit of a challenge physically. Yeah, so that was all new. But this time and last time I was just so busy. I had everything, mapped out that I had to be at and where I was speaking, what I was doing. And I couldn't really get much time to talk to people. This time, all I've got is one article that I'm writing on stigma, which is a poster. I've got that. But other than that, I'm free. I'm like, I've not booked anything else in. I can talk to people. I can get to know people. I can meet people I've met before. That's just going to be fun.
Absolutely. And you've been very kind. You were, in fact, reached out to me after watching our submission, Boys of Summer, third base, and had kind things to say about it. Thank you so much. It marks the world premiere, so you're one of the few who's seen it. You
It was
know,
really good, by the way. It was very good. I was like, there was a lot of movies we watched to see what would come to the Congress, and I really enjoyed it. I'm like, wow, you should just have him live as well, but I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately. So we'll go and watch the movie. It's awesome.
well, thank you for that plug and the promo and the kind words because it came together very quickly. The need for to get something done for my dad and say, can I possibly make this World Parkinson Congress deadline? And we did, and it's unique because you saw a shortstop too, right? You saw the last one, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
It was in Barcelona, yeah. So, I mean, they're more traditional documentaries. This one, because, like you said, of the live stage component, it's different. And you, as a person who enjoys such things, you got what I was going for. I was going to ask you, have you ever seen Adam Sandler's concert called Love You? It's a Netflix concert.
No, is it good?
Yeah, have you seen Adam Sandler do stand up before?
Oh, yeah, I've seen a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah, and you know his music, right? I mean, he's hilarious. So, if you get a chance, do you have Netflix?
we can get it. Like,
Okay,
yeah,
well, yeah, even
my
if you get
kids
it
are
for
on
a minute.
holidays. They're asking for it, so maybe we should get a trial.
Yeah, give it a shot. It's on there, the reason I bring it up is it was, there's a sensibility to what he does that was so beautiful. I mean, he's ridiculously silly and blue and everything else. I don't, shy away from that, but it's the name of it was Love You, and throughout the premise of it, as you'll see, is everything's going wrong as he's pulling up to, do this concert. I mean, he's got a big smash in his windshield. Everyone's pestering him outside, out of autographs, and, things are going wrong and he's getting phone calls. The stage is falling apart. Things aren't
Yep.
working technically. And I said, this is just great because throughout all of it, he keeps saying, hey, love you guys, love you guys. And he's not just throwing it away. He's almost like trying to open his own heart past this feeling of demoralization, which, as you know, comes through big in my
Yeah,
film too. I think in Parkinson's, that's such a big thing. Are you familiar with Bradley McDaniel's paper,
yeah, absolutely. I love his.
Demoralization?
Yeah,
Isn't it amazing? And what do you think about demoralization in Parkinson's?
what do I think about it?
Yeah, I mean, does it sound like an accurate description for yourself and what you see in others?
Oh, let me give you an example from the study. There was one lady from, she actually used that word. That's why it comes so quickly to my mind. She was in Latin America and she was looking for a diagnosis, and they
Mhm.
kept telling her what it was, and she didn't really believe it. She was really struggling, and she went to 12 doctors, 12, oh, maybe 14, 14. On the 14th, he finally said to her, because she was asking for tests that they didn't want to cover financially. And finally, in the end, she paid for it for herself. But he said to her, you're in 5 years, you're going to be in a wheelchair. And she was demoralized. She went away flat. Her and her daughter were completely demoralized. They went away from it. They realized it was true. She finally accepted that she had Parkinson's disease. That was the only good thing about that. But it wasn't lovely at all. But you know what happened? The amazing thing is she came back from that and she started an organization to help her community. She had to do exercise, so she went and learned what she needed to do and got people to help her, and she started a group to help people. It's like demoralized, and she's like, I don't know where I got that strength to do it. I felt awful. I felt like I was like that I wasn't worth anything, and I had to get up in front of people and talk and tell them that they should do exercise too. It was really hard. People watched me get up really, really slowly. She just felt the eyes of the world were on her, but
Yeah.
somehow she did it.
And you're so many things you said. Number one, acceptance, which is so hard. Getting a diagnosis to get to acceptance. I mean, how hard? How hard you had to fight for those things, and then what are you going to do about it? And that's the hero's journey at that point because she, like probably so many of us, Parkinson's or no, think that's not me. I'm not that person. I'm not a hero, right? And it isn't until we get this crazy call to adventure, say no to it because it's too big or too scary, right? But then we find the resources from we don't know where. And a lot of times it's reaching out to others, mentors and friends and new people like you did in Kyoto, right? I don't know these people and you showed up anyway and look at the amazing trajectory that set you on, right? But you had to say yes to that call.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's hard to say yes, but yeah, you got. Well, you really don't have much choice with Parkinson's. If you don't say
Well,
yes, it'll throw you for a
that's the other choice, right? And you've probably seen it. I've certainly seen it, and certainly heard the stories from people, those whose friends and family, because it's often from the care partners or family members I hear, who have given up, who are no
yeah,
longer answering the call. It'll take you down fast. One of the guys we met in the first Boys of Summer documentary, that was his warning to my dad. He said, "Don't let the disease eat you." And that
yeah,
phrase has stuck with me and dad. And look, it's rough. I mean, what my dad's going through right now, 25 years in, and he's 81 years old as well.
yeah,
It's very hard. But his spirit is so beautiful. And throughout these 25 years, he has fought, he has tried, he has done things, and
yeah,
he's been incredibly generous to allow me to tell his story. So,
yeah.
you know what that's like. You mentioned qualitative research. When people open up to you,
Hmm.
it's very humbling.
Absolutely. I mean, the stories I got from that study, a lot of them I haven't even told yet. So that's what we're gonna my poster about is gonna cover stigma. So there's a lot of things that are gonna come out of that as well for the
So,
Congress.
since you got stigma, you've mentioned several times, I'm guessing again, tangential to Bradley McDaniels, Indu Subramanian, Gregory Pontone, you're very familiar with. And yeah, I mean, these are all people who are thankfully opening, I think,
Yeah.
more categories to that to say this is not, I mean, one of the things that bothers me, you saw it in the movie, is when people call it a motor disorder and period. It's like, oh, you're missing so much of this. So,
Yeah. And people also say there's no stigma in Australia or America, and I don't believe that at all.
me neither.
Maybe they're very lucky, maybe they're they're at a point where it's not visible. But once you become visible or many years in, for example, I'm looking for a job right now, and how can you really tell if people are discriminating or not? Because it's very hard to, like they think 12 years of Parkinson's, how is she going to be?
Yeah. And like you say, it's like, oh, and all of a sudden you've been gone like that. It's like, wait a minute. Yeah. And if you don't disclose, then, right, it's a whole nother thing. And yeah. So, last thing, because you've been incredibly generous with your time, you and I have talked about doing some improv together, which I'm very excited about. Can you talk to me about your interest in improv and maybe what your vision for doing something in Australia is about?
Yeah, so I improv came to me expectedly. I'm not really a drama sort of person usually, but I did a little bit when I was in COVID, and it was very uplifting and very fun. And and then I've seen a little bit of your work and really enjoyed that. And I just feel like, we need something to help people accept a diagnosis and to take a step forward in a way, trying different things because when you're trying to do exercise, that's often something new and you have to push yourself beyond your limits. And so just trying anything new is actually a really good thing at that point in your life to embrace challenges. And yeah, so I feel like there's not enough socio how would you say psychosocial support
Psychosocial.
in Australia for Parkinson's or anywhere really.
Right.
And so I feel like what you've done is great and we'd love to see it in Australia.
Thank you. And I think you're right that improv can be a template, right? When you learn it to help you just say yes, because that's the magic two words, right? Yes, and say yes, and to all the opportunities that are weird, scary out there, and give yourself the opportunity to fail big and go, wow, either that wasn't right for me, or you know what, that was fun and I didn't die and I'm going to try it again. So it's you're right. It really can work that way. And I want to make sure you know that you got me inspired to. I've started to write a handbook for people who want to bring the program Jam for Joy, that this particular variety
Yes.
of improv we teach, so that it's out there. Because
Excellent.
I can only teach what I can teach. I already have my Thursday classes where they're pretty much student led. I'm there, but more from a set the table fashion, and give people the space to practice facilitating games and see what that's like, because it's different when you're leading as opposed to playing.
Oh yeah.
And you want to, it's a skill set that I want people to have. It is very teachable, it's very doable, and the
Mhm.
neat thing is how low to no cost it is, right? It's like, just go and you can have a piece of paper with, here's the things I want to do, and let's sit in a circle and
But
play.
But can I say that your time is precious as well? And we should definitely pay you because
Oh,
you've
thank you.
done so much work. And I just want to put that out there. If you have some spare change, more than spare change, it should be much more than spare change. It should have at least two zeros on the end,
Thank you.
if not more, um, because your work is so valuable and to the community. And I feel like we need to support that. because
Thank you.
it's hard for people who are doing the work. Like, they think you do it for love, and you do it for love. I know that from your family's perspective, but you've got to earn a living to support your family as well. So just putting it out there.
Thank you. Because like you, I have kids, and you know, in my case, a wife who's saying, you know, we'd like to do things too. I go, I know. So you're right. Thank you for putting that out there, and the funding we continue to search for. And I know you do that on your side, and
Please support Robert.
that's very kind of you. Christine, thank you so much for your time. I will post this, share this with you. We'll be in touch doing more. You're always welcome at the Jam for Joy. Come play if it works out time wise. I know I don't
Yeah,
want you up at 3 in the
I would
morning.
like to come. Yeah.
All
Yes.
right. Wonderful. Well, you be well. Thanks so much for joining us on the dose.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure.